Okay, welcome back everybody to the ninth episode of Consistency. So today we have a special guest with us, my good friend Nygel Jones. I met him at Georgia State as well, so he was also a roommate of mine. He's currently in the tech industry, and he also has some other cool things that he's gonna talk to us about today. So, with these episodes, we've just been talking to different people, getting different perspectives on what it's like to get into different workforces. And also, we like to throw in a little bit of music and cultural conversation as well. So, with that being said, just say what's up to everyone, Nygel. Just give a brief introduction to yourself.
Yeah, for sure. First off, Andre, man, appreciate you having me on. Like, this is big, definitely big ups to that. What's going on, everyone? Like Andre said, my name is Nigel. I'm a software engineer. Um, yeah, I guess I could start just talking about maybe how I got into tech. Uh, what really got me there. Originally, I came to Georgia State, and I was a physics major. Like, I was a person that was like critical thinking and logic. I was kind of big on that. And I thought that I wanted to be an electrical engineer. I thought that I wanted. You said what?
I was saying that was the same thing for me. I wanted to be an electrical engineer starting off.
Yeah, right,
Seemed
right,
cool.
right. Yeah, no, right. It seemed cool, right? But
Mhm.
at Georgia State, we didn't have an undergrad degree for engineering, electrical engineering. So I would have had to go to graduate school for that.
Mhm.
So I remember one of my professors. I think he was actually the lead of the physics department. He told me, he was like, hey, you could be a transient student at Georgia Tech, take these electrical engineering courses, see how you like it, and that could just kind of help you prepare for what it is that you want to do in grad school. So I did that, and I took a circuit analysis course, and I absolutely hated it.
Mm.
Man, it was like the worst, probably like the worst course in my career, like as far as me having interest in it. And
Mhm.
so I knew, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And funny enough, Chris, I think he was a guest on one of your previous shows.
Mhm.
He was a computer science major. Him and one of my good friends, Duval, and they were starting a company together called Event Tent.
Mhm.
And they entered their company to a business competition that Georgia State was holding for the students.
Mhm.
And for I think the first three places that you would place inside the contest, like they would offer you some type of funding to get your project or product off the ground.
Mhm.
And they won second place. I forget how much funding it was that they won, but they
I think you
received
said like
some,
10,000.
yeah, like
Mhm.
10,000, something like that.
Mhm.
And after I saw that, I was like, hmm. I
That's
was
where the
like, this
money
kind of
at.
makes it. Yeah, like, I feel like there could be some money here.
Mhm.
Um, it still involves like the critical thinking and like the logic aspect and everything that I like. Like, why not just go ahead and do that instead of, having to go to grad school, pay all this extra money, especially for a course, for the subject matter that I don't even like.
Mhm.
Like, let me go ahead and do that. So I went home. I went ahead and started searching. I didn't know nothing about computer science. Like, I was not a programmer before, had no experience. Like, I'm in the middle of college. This is my matter of fact, this is my junior year.
Mhm.
Like 3 years into college already. I'm over here. I'm like, yo, I got to switch it up. I'm over here typing like, okay, what does a computer science major do? What's the difference between software engineering, computer science, all that?
Mhm.
And I don't think the internet was super well informed. Well, excuse me, well, the articles I read, I don't think they were really well
Right.
informed, but they were saying that people with the title software engineer, they're different than someone that graduates with a computer science degree. But when you get in the field, you see there's no difference.
Right.
Um, but someone with that title, like they get paid more. So I was like, okay, well, how can I get the official title software engineer? And it turns out that at KSU, Kennesaw State University, they had the software engineering undergrad degree. And I think they were at that time in like 2015, there were like very few colleges, not just in the States, but in the world, that had that exact title for an undergrad degree major, right? So
Mhm.
I was like, you know what, let me just go ahead, transfer to KSU and change my major to software engineering. So I went ahead, did that, did another 3 years. I stayed in college for a total of 6 years, got my
Mhm.
degree, and went ahead and entered in the field.
Okay, okay, nice little. So we're gonna backtrack on some of that and just to, get you to elaborate a little bit more on some things. Very interesting journey that you've been on so far. So, Well, because I met you in at Georgia State. So kind of tell us about the student you were in high school leading up to going to Georgia State, and just kind of some of the things that you like to do. Because really, what I want to do with this platform is kind of provide some more context for younger people who are trying to get into the field, um, people who are graduating from high school, people who are in currently in college. So just to kind of provide a little bit more visibility, because like as you said, it's kind of a hard field to figure out exactly what it is. It's a little obscure. So yeah, if you could
Mhm.
just like kind of go into your personality, or just things that you would like to do in high school that kind of led you to going to Georgia State. Like, was that your first choice, or did you have other
Mhm.
options? So yeah, just kind of go into that,
For sure. Yeah. So in school, like I was the type of person I was really into academics. I
please.
wasn't too big into sports. I was much more just like um, a bookworm type of guy.
Mm,
I just love to learn as it was. I felt like school was something that I could really excel at. My grades were really good, were pretty good. And yeah, I was just always into the sciences. Like I wasn't too into tech, right? Like, but I
mm,
just, I was a dude that I was big into physics when I got introduced to that in high school. Like that was my favorite subject, still one of my favorite ones to this day.
mm,
Um, but I just love to learn. I think that really just kind of describes me as a person is just where like, if I see something, like it just grabs my attention, whether it's just like academic or learn different things, whether it's like history, even like literature, art, all that type of stuff. If I don't know it and someone's giving me that information, I really just want to absorb it. Um, so I think that like having that mindset and knowing that I really like science, that led me to believe like, okay, I know I want to do something science related.
mm,
I remember, and I think it was like my 10th grade year, I thought that I wanted to be in the medical field. I was like, I love anatomy, I love biology. Maybe I could
money.
do that. Yeah, I what's funny is that my school, we had a CNA course to
Okay.
where, yeah, you could take it for, what was it, 2 semesters? No, I think it was 2 years. After 2 years of taking that course, like there's a part one and part two, of course, you could you could actually get your CNA license, be a registered CNA. So I did that in high school, and I got my CNA certificate expired
Oh
now,
wow.
but yeah, I was a registered
That's
CNA, but the
cool.
stuff that I seen, even though I guess doctors wouldn't be doing that type of stuff, it just turned me off completely.
Mm,
So I was like, you know what, nah, I don't want to do that. So
mm,
I knew I was like, you know what, medical field's out. Let me see if I could do something technical.
okay.
And I started looking at different tech schools, and we're here in Georgia, and one of the top technical institutes is here in Atlanta, in the world, and that's Georgia Tech.
Mm,
So I applied. Man, I wanted to get into that school so bad, man. I ended
mm,
up getting waitlisted. So
okay.
yeah. So finally after waitlisting, they there was a period of time where they let me know whether I could go there or not, and eventually they just said, we don't have room for you. You just have to apply next year. Man, I was devastated.
Mm,
Um, because I was like, man, I really want to go to this tech school. I want to be an engineer, all this type of stuff. And I was talking with my brother about it,
mm,
and he told me, he said, "Well, are you sure that you want to be an engineer?" I was like, yeah, like I'm pretty sure, like,
pretty
because there was a
sure.
lot of concerns, like, like, yeah, I'm into
Mm,
science, like, yeah, I think that'd be cool. Because like the thing is, most people change their majors when they go to college, and I'm thinking, I'm like, that's not gonna be me. Like, I'm not gonna do that.
right.
Like, I already know what it is that I want to do. He said, why don't you go to just a university, something that's just not a technical institute. Just go to a public university, take some undergrad courses, just fill it out, and just see whether that's something you want to do, because you may want to do something completely different.
Mm,
So I ended up taking his advice. I applied. I started looking at like the top universities in Georgia.
mm,
I know UGA was one, and UGA was number one at the time, I think, and then Georgia State was number two.
okay.
So I was like, I don't think I want to go to UGA. Let me try Georgia State.
Mm,
And I went ahead and I applied, and I got in. And
and
honestly,
that's
that was like the best decision for me,
mm,
honestly, looking back at it. Like I wouldn't have, I don't think that I would have liked tech as
I
much
get
as
the
I like
same
Georgia
vibes.
State. Yeah. Same vibe. Like I wouldn't have liked it. I don't think I would have gained the same type of connections. Yeah.
Mm. See, that's real important that you say that, because I feel like there's so much pressure leaving high school to kind of have it figured out. I was in a similar situation. I ended up going to GGC for my freshman year,
Hmm.
prior to attending Georgia State. I got accepted into Georgia State, but it was kind of late because I was also trying to get in the. I don't know. Actually, I didn't apply for tech, but tech had the course that I wanted to take. So
Yeah.
I was trying, like I said, I was trying to do electrical engineering just because it sounded cool. I wanted to do something technical
Right.
originally. But yeah, just so for people watching, just know that if you're coming out of high school, you don't have to know exactly what field you want to go into. And those first couple of years really are for exploring, finding out who you are and what your interests are. And that's really what college is all about, finding what you like to do, find the crowds that you like to hang around. So yeah, thanks for sharing that with us, Nigel.
Mhm.
So now at state, what were some of your best memories from state overall? Like, whether it be academic, whether it just be social. Like, what were some of the things that you liked about Georgia State?
Yeah, the biggest thing I think was social
Mm,
because you have to understand like the background that I'm coming from. Like I grew up in a real rural area.
okay,
It's called Harlem, Georgia. It's like the exact opposite of
Harlem,
Harlem, New York,
Georgia.
man. Yeah, Harlem, you're right. Exact opposite of Harlem, New York, man. It's a small country town. There's only one street light in the entire city.
Mm,
Like it's that small. Our
damn.
graduating class was like 120 or 110 or something. Like it's so small
Damn.
compared to like when you hear the stories of other people saying like, yeah, I had 400 kids in my class. I'm like,
Right.
what? Yeah. So it was to the point to where like when like take me from like a country town where you see cows everywhere and horses and all this type of
Mm,
stuff. We wearing cowboy boots to school to coming to the inner city. Like
right.
it's night and day
Mm,
to where it's just like I'm over here looking. I'm like, man, like there's so many different groups of people. Like and this is gonna sound super crazy, I think, to like a lot of people that listen to this, but I never met any person that was from like the islands before until I got to college. I never met a
really.
person that was like a second generation African or from Africa. Never met
Mm,
any type of group of those people before, like seen them in person until I
that's
came
crazy.
to, yeah, that's crazy. Like a lot of people like that, that's their normal everyday, right?
Hmm.
But me, I didn't see any of that. And so seeing those different groups of people and like us having the freedom, we don't have like our parents really monitoring us like
Right.
that.
Right.
It was just like a great experience for me to come out my shell a little bit more and really just, have fun and just see how other people think. I mean,
Mm,
it was amazing. And through that I met lifelong friends, people
sure.
whose, weddings I've been in and when I get married, like I plan to have them in my wedding. Like it was from a social aspect, I feel like it just couldn't be touched.
Mm. I feel like that's actually a very underrated thing about Georgia State, the fact that it's like so in the city. Like
Yes.
you're really downtown Atlanta, and
Hmm.
so we were like really getting the vibes of everything, just having it like out because I was coming from Gwinnett, but I had originally lived in New York, so it wasn't like a huge shock for me, but experiencing it at that age in my life, opposed to when I was a kid, it was like definitely different. But
Hmm.
yeah, man. So okay, so we talked about just the Georgia State. So what were your classes like? Just like what were some of the classes? I know you said the one that you didn't like, but either
Hmm.
even if it wasn't at Georgia State, if it was at Kennesaw, what was like a class that kind of you took and you felt like it felt right, like or it felt like you were in a real university or something like
Yeah, I definitely think my physics and
that?
my calculus courses for sure. I
Calculus
took
was
Yeah, I took all types of physics. I took physics one, two, and then modern physics.
mm,
Then I took like calc one, two. I took what was it, calc three? I can't remember if there's a calc three, but there's a vector calculus.
mm.
I took that. I feel like I took dang near every
I
calculus
had to
class
take
that there
every
was. Yeah,
calculus.
like that really made me feel like I was in college for real.
Mm.
Because like I'm looking at all this stuff, I'm like, dang, I actually had to study because
I
in
didn't have
high
to
school,
do
man,
that in high school.
in high school, I didn't study. I never really remember studying from elementary school all the way up until maybe like my sophomore year in college. Like,
Mhm.
didn't crack open a book, none of that type of stuff. Even for a lot of my college, and this is bad. Like, I don't advise anybody to do it, but I would, for some of my courses, I really would only study maybe the night before midterm and the night before the final. Like, I just wasn't a studying person for those types of things. But some courses, it was just requiring me to be like, okay, let me just sit down and do this, right?
Mm,
So that definitely gave me that experience. But there was one course in particular that I really did like, and this was at Kennesaw State, and that was we had a game development course,
mm,
right? I had like an extra time. I had like a couple of hours that I just could take a course for. I was like, you know what, my schedule is kind of light this semester. Let me go ahead and take something that I'm interested in, and I feel that will count towards my major, or will count towards my major.
mhm,
So there was a game development course that they had there, and the project that we made at the end of the year was, of course, a video game, and we use it making this framework called Unity. And man, the stuff that I learned in there, I think it was really fun and eye opening because you get to see like the different things they can do with software engineering. You typically think of websites or maybe mobile apps or
mhm.
things like that, but video games themselves, that's software that you can make. So
Right.
yeah, it was really eye opening. Probably, I think that was definitely one of my top favorite courses for sure. It definitely changed, trajectory of my career for sure.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get into the that gaming stuff in a little bit.
Mm,
But first, so I guess talk me through what it was like after post college. So after graduation, like what were you,
mhm.
or did you have any jobs like while you were in school, or were you just pretty much focusing on academics while you were there? So just wanted to,
Yeah. So when I was at Georgia State, I didn't have any jobs.
okay,
When I transferred to KSU, after my after my first year at KSU, I became an RA.
okay,
So if you want to count that as like a job or something,
yeah, yeah.
then I did that, and then I worked an on-campus job my very last year.
Mm,
So I did that. But yeah, I typically really didn't work too much leading up to graduation. But good enough for me. Like I was able to just, I feel like I didn't have to work too many odd jobs, to kind of make ends meet with a lot of stuff. And, when I graduated through my friend Duval that I mentioned that was working with CRISPR at
mm,
a event tent, I was able to get my first gig, my
mm.
first, big boy job. So,
Sweet. Shout out to the
yeah,
network.
I'm telling you, man, I think that a lot of people they underestimate that.
Hmm.
Um, you know, for I think a lot of jobs I've had, like they've really just been through referrals or through like someone else saying like, "Hey, I saw this position, like I feel like you'd be good for it." But yeah, definitely big ups to him because I know a lot of people they go through like a transition period to where like they graduate and then they're not able to find something in their field. But if you increase your network, you definitely increase the likelihood of you knowing someone that knows an open position and can refer you to that position.
Okay. Yeah, you actually might have to put me in. Now that I've had you and Chris on here, you might have to put me in contact with Duval. Like I've met him before, but
Hmm.
to kind of bring him on because I guess from what I'm hearing about him and from when I met him, he was a cool guy. But
Oh yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
definitely
He's
have to get his
Yeah,
story as well.
yeah. He gonna put you on some knowledge if you have him on here for sure.
Oh yeah, I already
Yeah,
know.
definitely.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so for a lot of people they don't know that you have a gaming studio that you're developing or that's well kind of run it to me. I don't want to don't want to butcher it. So if you could kind of
Mhm.
get into Dapper Dog and just kind of explain what that is for people who are interested.
Yeah, for sure. So Dapper Dog Games is my mobile game studio. So there we actually develop mobile games. We're currently in the process of developing our first title called Playcade.
Mhm.
Hopefully, looking to have a release next year. We're going to do a beta release within a couple of months. So, but yeah, getting to that point definitely was an interesting journey. Like I mentioned that course before, that game development course. After I saw that, like I really liked it. I was like, you know what, this is something I could do. But I had it in the back of my mind because my first job, I my first job, I was a software consultant,
Mhm.
and we were working on a variety of in different sectors, like the finance sector. We were working with B2B companies, even government companies, like that type of stuff. So we didn't really deal with games. And the stuff that I was doing, I was a backend engineer. I was building out APIs, that type of stuff, right? And nothing really closely related to game development. And it wasn't until COVID hit, I
Mm.
had contracted COVID. And
Mm.
so my job, we were working remote at this time, right?
Right, right.
So my job, what they allowed us to do is like we actually contracted it. We would get an additional 2 weeks paid for us to recover because I think that was like the recommended time
Mm.
that you had to isolate yourself and all this type of stuff,
Good
right?
old days.
Right, the good old days. Now they just be like, "Yo, you all right?"
Yeah. Patch
Right,
it up, take some medicine.
right. But they gave me those 2 weeks,
Mm.
and I definitely was sick, but I think in my mind, I was just kind of just like, yo, I feel like I need something to do to
Mm.
where it's just like, yo, like I got so much time, like, let me have something. Like, there's got to be something for me to do. And I saw there was like this article talking about this teenager. He was still in high school and how he had developed a COVID tracker website to
Mhm.
where what it would do is it just track the amount of cases throughout the country of COVID infections. And some company wanted to pay him $1 million for the website, something like that. Something that's
Yeah.
crazy to where it's just, and he hasn't refused. I don't know why, but
Mhm.
like I saw that and I was like, I started thinking, I was like, that might be like a little idea. Like, what could I do? Like, I'm not gonna, make my own COVID website. Like, I don't think
Right.
that's, you know, no need for that. So I was like, what could I do? And so in my mind just popped up, it was like, why don't you just make a video game about the virus? And
Mm.
so I was like, okay, why not? Like I'm sitting here, I'm 2 weeks like incubated by myself. I got my laptop, my own personal laptop. Like, you know what? Let me just try to run this. So I hadn't touched the software to make video games in years since college, right? And
Mhm.
this is 2020 when the pandemic's happening. So, and I graduated in 2018. And I was like, let me just go ahead and get to work. So, man, I started looking up tutorials. I started working on the game, man. I was doing that stuff for like day in and day out for like 2 weeks straight. Even after I felt so much better and I was back at work, I was like literally waking up in the middle of the night and working on it because like I just had that drive, to really get it out there.
Mhm.
And I finished it. But the thing is that at the time, I think because COVID was so polarizing and we didn't know so much about it and people were dying left and right. When I went to go submit the game to the App Store to Apple or
Mhm.
Apple's App Store, they said that they didn't want any entities posting any information about COVID that weren't like government agencies or World Health
Mm.
agencies just to, keep the noise down, make sure there's no spread of misinformation.
Right,
And
right.
that I understood.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay, well, what can I do to make it not about Corona? So I had to change the name of the game.
Mm.
I had to like remove any references from it. I was like, okay, well, let's just say it's a white blood cell, fighting a virus. And then the approvers were like, nah, that's still not gonna fly. We know what you're really trying to do,
Mhm.
Google Play, they initially said the same thing to where they were saying like, hey, just remove the any reference from coronavirus from your game. I did that, and they actually accepted it.
Okay.
So now it's not currently on the Google Play Store because it was just like years ago, and like it was
Mhm.
only able to be played on older models. But
Right.
yeah, when I published that, only like 5 people I feel like downloaded it. I think two of them were family members, like one my dad, one my sister, and then
Mm.
three from somewhere else, in the US. And it was really cool just because it was just kind of like, man, like I really like put that out there. It was fun. I enjoyed it. And so I thought I was like, man, you know what? This is something that I may be able to do. So I had the studio. I went ahead and I created the studio to place the game under on the Google Play Store.
Mhm.
It's originally called Iron Dojo Studios, and then then later I renamed it to Dapper Dog Studios a couple of years later. Once I really started to get back into the game development, because I took some time off really just to focus on my career,
Right.
and yeah, I renamed it Dapper Dog, and now we're releasing Placate.
Dope. And see, honestly, that this goes so well along with the theme of consistency because it's just like sticking to it, even if it just starts out as a hobby. Like the fact that you were able to see the results and actually get it into the Play Store is, a feat of its own. So, congratulations and shout out to you for that. So, say that there was somebody who a young kid watching this, and they wanted to start their own game. What would be the best route that you would tell them, or like what information do you feel that they would need in order to have the best chance of success, or what tools would should they be looking into?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that there are a lot of tutorials online now,
Hmm.
right? I think the
Oh,
internet in this case would be our best friend. So you can use a tool that I use for my game development called Unity, Unity
mm,
3D. And essentially, it's just like a platform that makes it easier for you to create games, right? And so they have a lot of documentation and articles on how to do this and how to do that. They also have tutorials just showing you like step by step how to make a complete game of a particular style. It's really helpful. So if you have no experience with if you have no experience in game development, that's definitely good. But it also they also write a lot of their articles from the perspective of someone that doesn't even know programming principles, right?
mm, mm,
So even if you don't know how to code, these tutorials are still good for you to actually pick up.
mm.
Right? You'll learn coding and then you'll learn how to use Unity at the same time. So yeah,
Okay.
if there was any kid out there that was intimidated by programming or had no programming knowledge and just want to get into video games, definitely a lot of Unity tutorials I feel like would be good.
Okay, Unity. Actually, I just found like a Game Boy emulator a couple of weeks ago. So
Hmm.
I downloaded the Pokemon Emerald, and I was just playing that just to, be nostalgic and everything. That was cool.
Hmm.
But then I saw that they have like, because when I was looking at the emulator, I'm like, dang, so you could really write your own Game Boy games now, and not have to worry about putting it on a cartridge or anything. I think it's
Hmm.
called Game Boy Studios or something. So yeah, there's a lot of tools that maybe if you're not ready to do a full computer game or a mobile app, then maybe you can get started with a Game Boy game, something low level graphics. But
Hmm.
I watched a couple of tutorials, but
Hmm.
I'll be having a million ideas, so I'll start something real quick and then just not
Yeah,
all the way follow through. So I'm
I'm
not
telling you.
that passionate about video games, so I didn't stick with it. But yeah, for anyone watching this, there's so many platforms to develop for. Like you can pick iPhone, Android, Game Boy, PS2. Play. What
All that.
PlayStation are they on? I don't even play. So do you play you play games regularly?
I actually don't play as much as I used to, man. I used to,
Really?
yeah, I used to
Okay.
play select titles a lot. Like I used to be a faithful guy with like certain titles.
Mm,
Like I know, like the Dragon Ball Z series, like the Tenkaichi series. Like I was huge on that.
okay.
But there was like little adventure games, little kid games. I was never too big into like Madden or
Mm,
2K or nothing like that. But now I don't. I have God of War for PS5, but I don't even really play that
yeah.
anymore. So.
I'm not a big gamer myself either, even though like I think so many people expect people who are in tech to just be like big video gamers, but it's like when you're looking at screens all day, you're not really trying to play on screens
Boy,
anymore
what?
after
Yeah,
that. So
I'm
I
trying to
think
close
that's
my
a good
eyes.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like you want to just kind of decompress from all of that.
Hmm.
So I think let's actually speak about just some of the I would say challenges. Real quick before, like, I just want to mention that I think last year we had gone to the Black Men in Tech conference down in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a cool experience. You actually knew. I had told you about it, but he knew more people down there than I did. He knew some people who were speaking as well. So like, what was that experience like? What like? Just run through how your experience at Black Men in Tech was.
Hmm.
Did you like it? Would you go to like another conference like that? Just talk
Yeah.
about your experience.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, I feel like it was great because the weather was amazing in
Yeah,
Florida.
it was. It
Yeah,
was.
that was A1. And the hotel we were on was actually on the beach.
Hmm.
Did we stay at the same hotel? I can't
Nah,
remember.
you
But
stayed there. I was staying like a couple blocks away.
Okay, yeah. The one I was on the beach, and that's amazing, you
Mhm.
know. But the conference itself, it was cool. And I say that with inflection in my voice because I think a lot of the engineers we said like the same type of thing to where a lot of talks at a lot of these conferences, even though it would be like something in tech, like this conference, Black Men in Tech, a lot of the conversations about tech are very elementary. Like
Mhm.
there aren't very like intermediate or advanced technical topics
Right.
that you'll be able to glean from some of the talks, right? I think you'll see things like just like how to get into tech, and I feel like that topic or that talk has been beaten to death,
Mm.
by now a million times, right?
So
You can
true.
literally just Google or YouTube how to get into tech and be okay. Like I don't need another tech talk saying how do I need to get into tech. Don't need
Right.
one. And a lot of times it's about um, people say like starting a business, do all this type of stuff, blah 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 blah. That may not exactly be directly technical,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And I think it's a lot of times those conferences are much more for the vibes and for this and that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I wasn't the only one that felt that way. I think a lot of engineers felt that way. I can't remember whether you did, but
That
I
was
know.
my same. That was my same sentiment because I think
Mm,
I might have mentioned it on one of the earlier episodes, and I was like, because it's like it's something that I don't want to talk bad about. Like I did think I do like the idea and the concept because I do feel like especially black men, black people in general are underrepresented in the tech area, in the tech space. So I do like the encouragement that it gives, but at the same time, I didn't really feel like it provided what I was looking for as someone who was already kind of in tech, looking to kind of advance himself in there. I didn't feel like I had that opportunity necessarily. I met
hmm.
some cool people, um, but yeah, it just didn't feel like what maybe just not what I was expecting. I didn't know what I had expected to get out of it. But I mean, it was my first time traveling for a conference like that, so
Right.
that was cool. Just for getting out of the state and meeting other people who had similar interests was cool. But
Hmm.
yeah, even when I had gone to render last week, no, 2 weeks ago, yeah, render ATL. Um, but I got a free ticket because of a UI UX course I was in, so I didn't pay for this one. Like when I was trying to go to every event that they had available with the Black Men in Tech for render, I had gone to like one workshop, which was
Yeah.
cool. I liked the workshop, but yeah, maybe I just think maybe conferences aren't really my forte, So
Hmm.
like I do feel like if you're completely brand new into tech and need something to kind of like get you hype in order to feel good about starting something new, then it's a good thing. But yeah, I think if you're already kind of in it, then but it's also I think a conference is more like where a job would send you. So I think since I was just kind of going on my own, on our own strength, both like I don't think we really got what we were looking for out of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I definitely can agree with that. I wasn't able to get through the Black Man Tech conference. I wasn't able to get to like my job or anything, but yeah,
mhm,
it didn't feel like I got what it was that I guess I was really looking for.
yeah.
But
And the thing is, I don't even know what we're looking like. I don't know what we were looking for. Like I wouldn't even know what. I don't know what I had expected going down there. I guess I'm looking more for a community. I guess of people who I could like collaborate with, and I guess it really didn't feel like that at all. Like I don't even think people weren't really even necessarily coders there. Like, there was just people. There was a lot of like IT specialists, security, things
yeah.
like that, which is all great positions. But I was looking to like collaborate and find some cool projects that other people were working on. I think that's
Hmm.
more what I was anticipating and hoping for as I'm thinking back on it. But you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Shout out to them for, putting it together because I mean, I know that it takes a lot to coordinate all of that, get all of the sponsors there. They did have like a job fair type situation going on there, which
Hmm.
it was cool, but nothing really stood out to me personally. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
so yeah, that's just the tech. Or let me think how I want to phrase this. What are some of the other what are some of the benefits or some of the highlights that you've experienced being in the tech field? Or and give me some pros and cons, I guess. You can go whichever you can start with whichever one you want to.
Sure. I'll say, I can start with the pros. And my first one, it may be a con to some people. It just depends on the type of person that you are. But I think with our field, you always have to keep learning.
All right.
It's not like you just know your job and then you work at your job and you get good at it and then you're good forever. Or like
Right.
you don't have to do anything else. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, they may have either repetitive tasks that they do for their careers or whatnot, but it's just, you know, with us, we see new things frequently. We
Mhm.
have new technologies or frameworks that come out all the time that maybe become popular and you have to learn how to use those. Now, the underlying principles may always stay the same with what it is that you're doing, right? Um, the abstraction or like the framework of the tool that you're using, that's going to be different. And you have to keep up with that and learn that.
Right.
So some people just may not like to learn. They may like to just stick with what it is that they know and then, go from there. But if you do like to learn, like I like to learn stuff, then it's interesting to you,
Mhm.
right? You get to keep fresh, you get to keep up, right? Um, I also think like the flexibility too. I think
Yeah.
with the pandemic, a lot of roles have either become hybrid, so part time remote, and then part time in office, or fully remote.
Mhm.
And with that, I think that you have like a lot of flexibility. You're able to travel if you want to go to Florida just Thursday night or Wednesday night. You just want to be in Florida for the rest of the week. You could do that because all you can do is like you carry your laptop and do your work with you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, you can, I think, like if you work remotely, like if there is some time during the day to where you need to run an errand real fast, you can just go and do that. And if you happen to really need to push something up, like there's like a dire need for a project or work to be done, you can do it after hours if you happen to miss something, right?
Right.
Like
Mhm.
it's depending on what it is that you're working on, you're given that flexibility of time, and I think that that is really valuable. Also, I think that the money is good. Like compared to a lot of careers, like just being
Yeah.
honest, I think that you are able to get great financial compensation. Whether
Mhm.
that's just like your base salary or you get within your total comp packages as far as like bonus and stock and everything. You're given an opportunity in tech that you aren't given in a lot of fields. So definitely
100%.
pros. Yeah. Cons. Let me really think about cons.
There might not be cons either, or I'm
Hmm.
just or
It, if anything, I'll say this. I think that one of the cons I experience is just that people that are technical, typically, if they're just software engineers, they may not be like the most social or like outgoing that you may
Mhm.
experience in other fields, right? And I think that's
Right.
just the nature of the beast.
Mhm.
So, you may not share a lot of the same interests with a lot of people on your team if you're an engineer, depending on like what your interests are.
Right.
They may not be as socially outgoing. I don't think that you may lack those experiences, I think. But to tell you the truth, I feel like that's really the only con.
Yeah. Nah, I would say that it is a lonely field. Like
Hmm.
you're not best friends with the other developers on the team. You're just kind of you doing your work, they doing their work, and every once in a while, you guys don't want to hop. You hope you don't have to hop on any meetings to fix anything. So it is kind of
Hmm.
everyone just take care of their own stuff, which is cool. But yeah, definitely on that social aspect, I haven't really. I guess it's like a job since, especially since I've mainly been working remote. You don't typically make any friends in the tech space
Hmm.
at work anyway. So like I mean maybe with some people in other departments, but yeah, you're really for the most part just to yourself, which is like I said, I like to separate work from from my life, so
Yeah.
that fits in perfectly with my lifestyle. So I wouldn't even
Hmm.
call that a con, but I think that it's made it a little bit like because we were talking about networking. I haven't really networked with anyone who I've worked with other than Chris, but I knew Chris prior to working there.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
there hasn't been any, I haven't really developed, and that might be, on me more by not being like, by being social, like socially antisocial, I guess, in the workspace. But yeah, for me, I'm like, I don't really care to, but so this is a question that I want to have. Are you typically one of the only black people in your companies, or
Yeah.
who've been? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I was actually thinking, like, I was thinking about that the other day because it's like there's certain things that I guess not even just as a black man that you would go through, but there's just certain, I guess, situations that might come up that other people really don't pay it, like they don't understand. Like I was actually thinking back to when I was working at the same company as Chris. um, one of the one of the managers, or one of the project managers at the time, he had made like a joke, and it was like from, I want to say Fast and Furious, but it was just like a joke that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I think just being, I just didn't feel comfortable. Like I didn't like tell on him, or I addressed him. I talked to him directly about it, but it just didn't feel. I didn't feel like I had, like it was something that I probably should have taken to HR. Now that I look back on it, but at
Hmm.
that time, I don't think I felt comfortable or felt like I had the say so to kind of do, take those types of actions. Or so I guess it's just been different, navigating different spaces and kind of trying to understand different cultures, people like that. So I don't know if you've had any experiences like that, in the workforce or just
Hmm.
in general, but yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I think just the lack of seeing our representation there. It's like you kind of feel, I guess sometimes I feel a little pressure to like show up or show up as a black person to an extent, because I feel like there's already like a stigmatism on, or is that, I'm thinking that stigmatism is the eyesight, but there's
Yeah.
always like a
Stigma.
yeah, stigma that goes with being black in some of these spaces, especially, and like as a software developer, I've never really had to dress up, or like kind of, they kind of let you wear whatever. Like in my current company, it's a little different because it's a little bigger company, so
Hmm.
you do have to dress up a little bit more. But that was a adjustment for me. I say that.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm. For me, I've never had too much of like I never had too much of like such a cultural divide to where like something offensive would happen and I felt some
mhm.
type of way. Now, my first gig as a software consultant at that company, especially in the Atlanta office, it was pretty black.
Mhm.
So we had more black people than I was used to,
Right.
or that I would have expected because that was my first job.
Mhm.
When I got my second one, that one was based in Lincoln, Nebraska. First of all,
Oh.
so it's just kind of just like, you know, now I was working remote, of course, but
Right.
like when I turned the camera on, my team at the time we had
Ish.
one other black person besides me.
Mhm.
Then another black person joined, but then they both ended up leaving, and it's just me. And when I look through the company, you look through like the large meetings, all associates meetings, and you see like you're the only black person that you can, if you just looking by name and
Right.
maybe like their profile photos, you're kind of looking like, okay, yeah, I'm probably the only one, maybe two other people.
Mhm.
And those two other people aren't engineers. They'll
Right.
probably be project managers or program managers or something, right? So because I've been remote, I've been distant from that. I haven't gotten the chance to really interact with people and just maybe like experience those microaggressions in the workplace.
Mhm.
I feel like I definitely would, but remote work has distanced me from that.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah.
that's a huge event because I mean alleviated some of the, because I only dealt with that when I was going into the office. But yeah, since
Mm-hmm.
I've been remote, I haven't really. It's nothing that you can really say, I guess, over the phone that's gonna offend me or anything. But yeah, it is different being, and the thing is, it's because there's a lot of other cultures. It's not even just like it's only other white people. Like you're working with Indian people, um, Hispanic, Asian. So you're working with a multitude of these diverse races, and but you being the only black person in the area or in a space does make you kind of feel like you got eyes on you. You like, it kind of feels like everything is hyper focused on, like, especially when I was first starting out, it felt like all the mistakes I made were just like amplified, or it felt like that because I was black at that time. So that was a difficult hurdle to get over, and it's something that you don't even really recognize in the moment, but it's kind of just something on the back in the back of your mind. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's just for people who might not, or who might get into the tech field and not know that that's around the corner. And I think
Right.
that's kind of more what I was expecting, to kind of alleviate going to like the black men in tech, like hoping to find more people of my color in that space, and hopefully like find I do think we need some more predominantly black services in the tech field, like just to kind of help other people feel more comfortable in the space. But that's we can that's talk for another time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So we still got a couple of minutes. Let's I did want to let the people know that we have a musician on the on the stream today. So yeah, go into how you about some of your instruments that you played over the years and how
Yeah,
you
for
got
sure.
into it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I play saxophone, alto sax. That's really the instrument that I play. Nothing else seriously or anything with any type of
Okay.
proficiency outside of that. But man, my family was pretty musical. My
Mm,
mom and my sister, they can really sing, and I could just remember growing up, like Saturday mornings, waking up. I'm talking about like 8 o'clock in the morning. These two are harmonizing, and you can
mm,
hear it just in the house, like all the time, right? So it's just you always kind of had that influence, just always just around you.
right.
And my parents, they weren't too into rap. They actually didn't want us listening to the radio. So they
Mm-hmm.
had like a collection of CDs to where it was just like a bunch of oldies. We had it was like one particular CD that had just like a mashup of different artists. So you had the OJs on there, the Temptations, Al Green, like this. And my parents are older,
Mm,
so like this is kind of like their generation of music. Then you even
yeah.
had like '70s music. When you start moving to the '80s R&B, like they had Luther.
Mm,
Of course, they had Whitney, and like everyone's like a big Michael fan. We had
right.
Stevie Wonder, who's my favorite artist today. It's just like I had all of that musical influence, and maybe I'm just sounding like an old person that just hates on like newer music, but I feel that there's a lot more instruments that flow through older music than
Mm,
newer music, and I'm not going to debate and say whether that's better or worse, but I think with that influence, like that's or with that sound, I think that that's something that really just got ingrained into me. And so when middle school came, I decided I wanted to be in band. Like my sister was in chorus, and of course she was known for like singing very well, all this type of stuff, right? I was like,
mm,
I'm not no singer, so let me just see what I could do, and I ended up going to band, and I looked at like the different instruments that they had, and we were just looking at different pictures and seeing which one that we wanted to pick. And I saw the saxophone in there, and I was like, that looks cool. Like it's made
mm,
out, like it's made out of brass or whatnot. Let me just check this out, just see what it's like. And I picked it up, and I played from sixth to eighth grade. I was pretty good there. I was first chair. Okay, but I stopped really in high school playing in like the band. But
mm,
when I was in middle school, like I was in like outside bands, like I was in a jazz band. I was in
okay.
what else was I in? I was in different like little musical groups to where like I could expand my skills. I was getting private lessons too.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so like my skills definitely grew there. But I didn't get back into like an organized band until college, and I was in marching band at Georgia State.
Hmm.
I did it just for 1 year, and there was like 14 of us, and like man, I was so rusty. Like it was just so crazy. Just like you can see these people that have been playing all the way from sixth grade, taking private lessons and playing all the way up until like their junior year at college. Like you could tell,
Yeah.
like they were on it.
Hmm.
So there was like a lot of catching up that I had to do, but yeah, man, like it's just something about that like that instrument. I haven't played it for a while now, but like it's something that like I don't know, it's just something about the sax. Like to me, it's just like it's a top tier instrument,
Yeah.
really.
Nah, actually, that sound like people playing basketball and like
Hmm.
AAU traveling. Like it sounded like you was that serious about it back
Hmm.
in middle school. So what type of music do you listen to now? Do you still do you listen to any rap now, or do you still just
Hmm.
kind of keep it classical?
You know, I don't like consciously just listen to like any particular rap artist and just be like, you know what, like this is my favorite rapper, right? I'm just gonna
Hmm.
hone in on his music. Now I'll listen to like a hot album,
Hmm.
like We Don't Trust You, that's, I'm
Okay.
with that now, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
so like I'll listen to like stuff that I feel like that's just hot at the moment, but there's not like a particular rapper that I'll just like every time they come out with something like I'm just honed in on it.
Right.
I'm still with like I'm still with like the older music too. Like I feel like
Hmm.
I can't ever get away from that. I'm definitely much more of like a neo soul dude. So anything from Maxwell, D'Angelo, Erica Badu, like that whole and moving away from that just a little bit, like Jill Scott,
Hmm.
um, Raheem Devon, like that's kind of like that's my sweet spot. That's music, man. I can just put on any time of the day, anywhere, and I
Right.
just be like, yo, this is it. I can't put on I can't put on rap, just anytime,
Hmm.
any day, right? Like there's got to be a move for it. I can literally put that type of music on anytime, and I'll be okay. Um, yeah. And I'm definitely like a jazz dude too. Like I like
Mm.
I love jazz. Like even music without words to me, I think it's funny. Like it doesn't have words, but it says so much. Right?
Hmm.
Like the notes, they mean things. And
Right.
so sometimes I feel like we need that. Like if I don't want to listen to the words, like I want to listen to what it is that we're feeling. I feel like those notes they give that.
That's because as you were talking, I'm like, I don't ever remember knowing what you were listening to. I know
Yeah.
our other roommate Andrew, he was always playing like old school hip hop,
Yeah, he was that type
and
of guy.
yeah, he was kind of like he was kind of like Parks from Joe Budden's podcast, but
Yeah.
yeah, he was yeah. Also, I remember there were always being music, but I'm like, yeah, you know what? You were never really playing like any current like hip hop or anything like that. Like, but I definitely get what you're saying. In terms of like the rap music, like even me, I go out of my way to listen to rap because I think now I'm more in tune with the narrative more so than maybe the subject matter of rap and hip hop. I do have favorite artists or favorite rappers that I'll listen to and hone in on, but I like all the people who you would name too. So I like to get a nice collection of everything. So I do love the neo
Mhm.
soul. We recently just had a family reunion, so I had made like a little playlist of old school songs,
Okay.
songs that just like you can play for anybody, and that's really what I want to do with like WeTheSauce.com. I want it to just be a place where you can find any type of song, like, and then also hear the current music, like you said, We Don't Trust You, or We Still Don't Trust You, um, and just kind of hear the musical aspects in the current day music as well, because I think it's there,
Hmm.
and it just kind of gets muddled up. But I think there is a little bit too much vulgarity in some of the music today, but
Hmm.
musically it's still hitting some really cool notes and just some
Hmm.
real cool vibes. So
Yeah.
that's always cool.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. But the funny thing about that too is, I was actually talking with someone about this the other day. Like, yeah, I think music today is really vulgar. Like I'll say it's explicitly vulgar because if you listen to music
Right.
back in the day, they're more poetic with what it
Mm-hmm.
is that they're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're still saying the same type of stuff. It's just like
That's
they
literally
they layer it with innuendos and like all this type of stuff, but they're literally doing and saying the
the
same type of stuff.
same.
Now maybe they're not killing people, they're not doing that,
Not
but
talking
like
as
as
much
far
about it.
yeah, they're not talking much about, but like, how they're seducing women, drugs, all that type of stuff. It's all there. You just have to listen to, like, they're real poets. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
have to listen to how it is that they're wording what it is. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like the music is so good. Like listening to D'Angelo Brown Sugar. You think about that, but he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, he's talking about drugs. Like, what you
Right.
really think? It's just kind of just like, what? That a whole bunch of songs. You just listen to old songs, you just kind of like, man, like, dang.
So real quick, because this is actually Frank, the guy who I host this with on a consistent basis.
Mhm.
We were talking about, first off, I don't even know if I think it might have been a call before we started recording them. Because I think it was around the time when we were working on your website, and then that's when you had told me about you playing the saxophone. Because he was like, "Yeah, there's no more real music in music today, or no more instruments." So he was saying the same thing that you were. And then I was like, "Dang, my friend Nigel actually just says that he plays the saxophone." So it was just like kind of a interesting timing. But
Mhm.
then also I was wondering, so what are your thoughts on like Sexy Red and current people like that? So I want to get your your opinion on some of like what people find popular today. And so cuz
Mhm.
like you said, there's it's been the same subject matter is here. We're just a lot more bolder in how we talk about it. So
Yeah,
what are your good thoughts on that?
for sure. Like when it comes to Sexy Red, she's the boldest of the bold, as far as like what she
Mm-hmm.
says. But yeah, like and that just goes back to what we were saying. It's just like music today is more explicit. But even with that, honestly, what I think, I don't even necessarily feel like Sexy Red lives that lifestyle. I don't think that many people that rap like that or that say the things they actually do that. They just know that they can hop and say that on like a catchy beat because all her stuff, I'm not even gonna lie, like I won't hold you. Her stuff is catchy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just being honest, like
Mm-hmm.
it, she can talk about anything, but it's just like her stuff honestly is just catchy. So I think that she just recognized that, and a lot of artists are like that, to where they recognize they can talk about X, Y, Z. They just put it on a beat, and like that beat is jumping, then it just goes that. So yeah, the stuff is more explicit, but I really don't feel like a lot of people truly embody a lot of the stuff that it is that they may talk about, right? Like this most
That's
artists, yeah,
That's literally the point Frank had made in our last show. I believe he was saying, they're promoting something that they're not actually living that life of, and
yeah,
so yeah, I think we'll probably have to have you back on. There's a lot of people. I want to have Chris back on with Frank, and I want you to, come back and speak with Frank as well, because
hmm
but yeah, because like I said, what I want to do is I want to help bridge the gap between the generations. So the older generation and the younger generation. Right now, I think there's just a disconnect in the communication because of some of the vulgarity. Like I don't think a lot of the older generation understands why it has to be vulgar. And I'm like, it's really just a reaction to what's currently going on, what we're seeing on TV. So it's like
yeah,
some things have to stand out, like especially in with TikTok and people's attention spans being so short. It's like certain
hmm
things just have to stand out, pop, and grab your attention. So
yeah,
um, yeah, that's just kind of where we're at with things. So yeah, we're just at about an hour. So I think we covered everything that I wanted to ask you. Was there anything that you wanted to just get off your chest or just say to the people real quick?
yeah. First of all, I think that this platform is dope, man. I want to say
Appreciate
thank
it.
you again for bringing me on, and I know, we're both technologists here, we're both black, and one thing that I had like a conversation with about Trying to be cognizant of time, trying to make this quick, but
No, you're good.
I okay, one thing that I talked to like other Black technologists about, or other Black people in tech, is that a lot of times I think that when we talk about technology, especially as Black people, we think of like computers and we think about how like mystifying it is, like how it's something that's really difficult. And there are hard aspects to it, but it's something that can be done, right? I think that, for anyone that may be out there and that's listening to this and they think that tech isn't something for them, like being an actual engineer, I think that you should reconsider and you should try it. So, yeah, it may be hard. It was difficult for me at first. I'm sure, like, maybe it wasn't super easy for you. I don't know. But, with anything, yeah, exactly. With anything, you just got to practice at it. And I think that the rewards that are in being a technologist are great. So I just want to encourage everyone out there, just try it and see, and keep pursuing it, even if it's difficult. Just pursue it, just push it. You can do it. Don't let your fears of technology, of computers, really stop you from pursuing this. I think it's worthwhile.
Thank you so much for that, man. Thank you, brother, for coming on to this platform and sharing your thoughts and your journey. Definitely want to have you back in the future, especially once you
Hmm.
get Dapper Dogs rolling. Or maybe about around the time when you're trying to release the demo, come back on, talk about, what you've developed and some of the plans that you still have moving forward.
Hmm.
Anything, if you ever have anything that you want to just talk about on here, you could always just hit me up and, we can make it happen, man. So thank you once again for taking your time. I know you're busy and, this was last minute too. I was asking him yesterday, I was like, oh, because at first I wasn't gonna do one this week. Normally I do it every other week. But I was like, you
Hmm.
know what? I got some time. Let me try and squeeze another show in here. So but thank you for being flexible and hopping
Hmm.
on with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Um, and yeah, we will catch you guys next week. Well, I'll be here. Nigel can come if he wants to, but we'll have him on again for sure. So we appreciate you, man, and